When we imagine extraterrestrial governments, we often project primate evolutionary artifacts, parliaments, presidents, and Westphalian borders, onto species with entirely different biological origins. These structures evolved from dyadic interactions, grooming, and vocal debate. They lack a functional equivalent in a species defined by eusociality and mycelial interconnectivity. The Myco-Synaptic collective provides a different substrate, a pulsing bioluminescent network of interconnected hyphae spreading across a dark planetary surface. In this superorganism, the colony operates as the primary unit. Social standing is defined by functional castes, workers, processors, and soldiers, rather than individual rights. High-bandwidth communication occurs through controlled bioluminescent light emission, allowing the network to transmit complex signals across the collective at the speed of light. Because every node is physically integrated into the larger hyphal architecture, the concept of a voting individual disappears into the network's total processing power. Governance functions as a literal physiological process. The state operates according to the mechanics of fluid dynamics and the genetic thresholds of the superorganism. Human budget allocation relies on debate and legislative compromise. The Myco-Synaptic state handles resource distribution through pure fluid dynamics. This decentralized mechanism, the Physarum protocol, dictates how nutrients and defense factors flow through the collective without a central administrative body. A proposal begins when a sector releases a chemoattractant. Neighboring nodes dilate their hyphae, channeling nutrients toward the stimulus. If successful, returning nutrients reinforce the pathway. If the initiative fails, the supporting tubules starve and the failed policy's infrastructure simply dissolves. This system ties political influence to metabolic wagers. Every resource allocation carries a direct caloric risk for the nodes involved. Inefficient projects cannot be sustained by rhetoric or pork barrel politics. Infrastructure that fails to provide a thermodynamic return on investment eventually ceases to exist. Legislative functions present a different challenge, enforcing rules without text, speech, or a police force. The collective utilizes stigmergy, a mechanism of coordination where individuals modify their environment to influence the behavior of the whole. Laws take the form of persistent pheromonal gradients or physical barriers built into the landscape. When a worker encounters a chemical marker, it is physically repelled. Obedience is a sensory reflex rather than a volitional choice. Legislation is ratified through quorum sensing. A law becomes active once a pheromone crosses a concentration threshold. This prevents rogue alterations. A critical mass must secrete the marker simultaneously to reach the threshold required for a state change. Decision-making follows a rhythmic cycle of shuttling streaming, where oscillatory contractions synchronize the entire superorganism. By measuring the transfer of information across these oscillations, the collective synchronizes its pulse to the sector with the highest informational confidence. In a stigmergic architecture, the law is the environment. The biological constraints of the species make disobedience a physiological impossibility. Human representative democracy is defined by the rigidity of fixed terms and broad jurisdictional authority. Theoretical models like liquid democracy propose a more fluid approach, where voting power can be delegated and revoked instantly across specific domains. The Myco-Synaptic state implements this through anastomosis, the physical fusion of hyphal cell walls. When a node trusts a larger hub, it physically fuses its cell wall with it, replacing abstract delegation with physiological connection. This creates a supervoter, aggregating power. But delegation is revocable. If the hub outputs detrimental signals, attached nodes trigger pore closure, severing the link. Once the physical link is cut, the constituent nodes extend new hyphae to fuse with a different, more competent hub. In digital systems, liquid democracy is vulnerable to Sybil attacks, the creation of fake identities to inflate influence. Biological anastomosis addresses this by requiring physical biomass and metabolic energy for every vote. One cannot forge a metabolic existence. The combination of stigmergy and anastomosis creates a government defined by topology rather than geography. The map of the state reorganizes in real time. During peacetime, the network fragments into millions of decentralized cooperatives, optimizing the superorganism for local exploration. When a crisis occurs, the network centralizes. Millions of nodes rapidly fuse to create massive, glowing war hubs for rapid decision-making. This structural flexibility allows the state to transition from decentralization to extreme centralization at the speed of fluid dynamics. Systematic planetary-scale coordination is achievable without primate hierarchies or individual representation. By mapping computational political theories onto biological imperatives, the Myco-Synaptic model achieves a frictionless cyberocracy, bound by the physical constraints of the body politic.